Are you ready? No. Are you ready? Yes. I'm not sure. Do you have the skills that your organization executives are looking for? Do you know what those skills are? Can you connect what you do every day to your organization's business goals? Can you demonstrate that you understand the future direction of the organization and you can help your organization get there ahead of the competition? Are you going to wait for someone to tell you what you should know and what you should do? Or are you already on a path towards that? Are you developing your personal portfolio of skills to match what the organization needs, not now, but for the next 3 to 5 years, so that you help the organization that you work in beat the competition, be more productive, and deliver value to all its stakeholders? If not, you're not ready. If you are, you may be in a very select few. This is really a good news, bad news story. There's lots of good news. The good news, around the world, there's increasingly a value being placed on project, program, and portfolio management. Everywhere I go, organizations are highly focused on investing in a strategic competency that we know it is. They see it as a way to deliver value efficiently and effectively and repeatably to all of its stakeholders, customers, citizens. It doesn't really matter. That's good news. I was just in a conference in Chennai, India, very much like this, and PMI's India team told the audience that the approach paper for the 12th five-year plan in India called out project management as a strategic competency that was essential to the future and success of India. It said it could be developed and it could be institutionalized across all of government. That's phenomenal, but it's not unique. We see that happen everywhere in the world. In the United States, we know about the CIO and their plan for the 25-point plan to improve technology programs, which includes a job series for IT program managers, identifying the competencies and skills necessary to lead major programs in the USA's IT programs. They have a budget, just to give you a perspective, of $80 to $90 billion every year in IT. In the United Kingdom, they formed a major projects authority focused on 100 programs totaling 440 billion pounds of total spend over the life of the programs. And they created a major projects leadership academy to develop project and program managers to ensure the success of those projects and programs. I could go on in every part of the world with examples just like that. On the private sector, CSC, and you'll hear from Lem Lasher if you saw the walk-in slide tomorrow on innovation, they use the PMP as part of their talent management framework, and they use our standards as part of their internal methodology called Catalyst. And actually right here in Canada, since we're in Canada, the Office of the Comptroller General has actually identified the PMBOK guide, the Program Management Standard, and the Portfolio Management Standard as critical references for the complexity and risk assessment tool that they use in Canada. This is good news. It's better news if you're ready and you know what they're using these things for and what the competency skills are necessary to help them. If not, there may be some work to do. There's more good news. There's more jobs. Not only is there overall valuing, there's more jobs that are going to be created. In a recent report from Anderson Economic Group, they identified 1.5 million new project management related jobs every year for the next 10 years. That's 15 million jobs. In North America, it's nearly 300,000 jobs in North America every year for the next 10 years. If you're ready, that's fantastic news. If you're not, organizations are going to face some dire circumstances trying to find the talent necessary to fill those roles to meet the demands of their businesses. I did mention this is a good news, bad news story. So I have some bad news. There's not enough of you to go around. Forget about the 1.5 million new jobs every year. Right now, organizations tell us there's not enough of the right talented project and program managers to fill the business need they have. A recent study by the Aberdeen Group looked at portfolio managers and asked them what the #1 risk factor was in being successful in portfolio. And they said it was contention for specific resources. It wasn't that they didn't have resources, they didn't have enough of the right resources. That's not good when organizations are increasingly placing value on project and program management. There's more jobs and opportunity, but they can't find them. Where do they come from? How do organizations develop them? And are you going to wait for the organization to ask you to develop, or are you going to do it on your own? That's some bad news if we don't act. I was on the same trip after India. I was in Singapore, and we heard an economist speak. And he talked about what we call, or he called, a labor abundance, but a talent shortage. We know that all over the world, there's plenty of people that are either underemployed or unemployed. And we also know that there's millions of jobs that are yet filled. So we have labor abundance and a talent shortage. So we have to focus on improving the overall talent pool to help fill those jobs around the world. And what the organizations are telling us, and what we found in our own research, is being technically competent is no longer sufficient. It's absolutely essential, because we can't be good at project, program, and portfolio management without it, but it's no longer sufficient. Organizations are looking for so much more. We've heard for about a decade things like soft skills, leadership skills. Organizations are now building into their frameworks for their careers in their program project managers a specific focus on leadership development, negotiation, communication, conflict resolution, organization change management. A recent report we did on organization agility called out some of the best practices for organizations, one of which was including in the position description for their project and program managers responsibility for organization change management. So organizations are carving out a second area of focus. Sound technical skills, absolutely essential, but more importantly, leadership skills. And there's a third area. I call them strategic and business management skills. Do you know, as a project or program manager, what your organization's customer relationship management model is? Go-to-market strategy, differentiation strategy in various markets, innovation strategy, depending on the type of organization you work in? Do you understand it? But more importantly, do you understand how what you do aligns to that or not? Because what we also know is the world around all of this is changing rapidly. So projects that take more than 6 months are much more at risk to fall out of alignment or need to shift or change because the market around that organization has changed. So if you don't understand your organization's strategy and the business environment it works in, there's a chance that you'll fall out of alignment and your work may be less relevant or less valuable, even though you did it on time, on budget, with the desired scope. So technical skills matched with leadership or soft skills, matched with strategic and business management skills, they're absolutely essential. And that's what organizations are looking for. We have a global executive council. You may have heard about it over the last night and today. It's about 70 organizations, leading organizations and brands that are excellent at project and program management, some of the best, most mature. We did a survey with them about critical success factors and skills and behaviors necessary for their most complex projects, the most important projects, whether they consider them complex or not. And when they gave us the list, it was interesting that only 3 or 2 skills out of a whole entire list were technical. Everything else fell into those other 2 categories. Aligning the team to vision, not a technical skill. Creating a vision for the project or team, not a technical skill. Negotiation, conflict resolution, organization change management. We hear this over and over again. The role of the project program manager has been changing, but it's now more rapidly changing to the role of a business leader. And that's good news if you're ready. It could be bad news for the organization and for you, those in the organization, if we don't know how we're going to get there. One other observation I had, I networked with quite a few association executives, and we were talking about some of the recruiting things that go on. And I saw the competencies and skills list from our council members, those in our own research and role delineation studies, and I was presented one from an executive recruiting firm. And it amazed me that as I went down the list, the entire list was exactly the same as what our council said and what our role study said. So not only are those skills important for project and program managers, it's the same skills that an organization looks for in the C-suite. The only difference is the context to which they're applied. They apply it to the enterprise in an executive role. We apply them to project and program management, but they're essentially the same. That means we have a lot of work to do. We need to catch up to be ready for the opportunities that are out there. I mentioned a couple organizations earlier. One was the Major Projects Leadership Academy. Just to give you an indication of what they're doing relative to talent, they created that Leadership Academy at Oxford School, Saïd Business School rather, at Oxford. But what they did was interesting. They weighted the program across 3 domains. 50% of it is focused on leadership, only 25% on technical skills, and 25% on what they call commercial capability, which in my vernacular is strategic and business management skills. Organizations are shifting and looking for the next generation PM. Siemens, another large organization and very mature in project management, did something else that was a little bit interesting. They categorized, from a portfolio standpoint, all their programs and projects through A through F, A being the most complex, largest budget, longest duration, F being some of the smaller, think small integration, systems integration projects. But they took the next step and they actually categorized the portfolio of talent in their organization through the same series, A through F. You cannot lead an A program unless you are A qualified as a project or program manager. These organizations are going great lengths to make sure that they're ready. And the employees in those organizations are developing themselves so they can be in the right spot to lead the program and move up through the ranks of their career path. It's a really interesting phenomenon because what they realize and what they tell us is all strategic change happens through projects and programs. They may not call it that way in every organization. The more mature organizations do, but we know that all strategic change happens through projects and programs. So as executives, what they're starting to realize is that their current operations represent what they are today. Their entire portfolio of projects and programs represent what they'll be in the future. If they can't see their strategy in their portfolio of projects and programs, they have no chance to achieve that strategy. That's how we're getting executives' attention. But the flip side is they're demanding more from project and program managers. And if you're ready, it's not a problem. But if you're not, our organizations are going to suffer. And it comes down to a fundamental shift, I think. We're very good at managing projects, but are we really good at leading change, leading projects? That's what organizations want. If you take that competency skill profile that looks just like the executive recruiters, they're looking for somebody to lead the organization in the project management context. They're not looking for any of us to manage projects and programs. They're looking at us to lead the change in the organization through project and program management. And that's a fundamental shift that's been taking place, but I can tell you it's radically on the rise. It's interesting, I've talked a lot about practitioners being ready. I have the same question for organizations. If you're an organization leader in this audience, if you're responsible for the project delivery capability of your organization and all the talent that I've just talked about, I have a couple questions for you. Have you mapped out your organization's future needs around talent as an organization leader? Do you treat talent development as a cost or an investment? By the way, there's only one right answer to that question. I didn't see the hands go up differently, one from the other. There's only one. It's an investment. We'll come to that at the end. Are you willing to leave the future of your organization to chance? Or are you going to take the responsibility to develop the future workforce of the organization? If you're ignoring it, they will go away. If you focus on it and invest in it, it'll improve and it'll be a competitive advantage. Because high-performing organizations already know this. High-performing organizations put far less at risk than low-performing organizations in project management. 9 times less. 9 times less budget at risk in high-performing organization. What are some of the characteristics of a high-performing organization? They're almost 3 times as likely to have a career path for project management, and they're twice as likely to have a process that develop the competencies long-term once they've established it. Low-performing organizations don't have it, seldom use it. 9 times more budget at risk. When executives say, what's the value of it? It's a pretty simple equation, 9 times more at risk. Executives worry about investment and risk. at least two things. It's very clear that if you put those things in place, if you develop the talent and the workforce that you need for the future, you're going to have a lot less at risk. So you're probably wondering, why am I telling you this? This is a Congress, right? Well, my view is practitioners have an obligation to get ready. So are you ready? See, not many yeses now. Right? Organizations have an obligation to get themselves ready and you ready. I know none of them are going to say they're ready because they're worried about it, right? It's the number one worry on executives' minds is that they don't have the right talent, and they're worried that without the talent, they won't be able to achieve their strategies. Many surveys prove that out. And as PMI, and why I'm really saying it, we have the obligation to support both of you, organizations and practitioners, to help project management become the strategic competency in all organizations that we already know it is. You expect me to stand up here and say, project management's important. Project management's a strategic competency. It can be the differentiation between one organization and another's success. You want me to say that. I'm the CEO of PMI. But we know that other organizations are saying it. What we want is all organizations to say it. So that's why I'm telling you this. It reminds me of a story, actually. But I'll come to that later. So getting ready, right? So are you ready? So getting ready starts today. This is really about the conference. You know, have you ever assessed your talent gap personally or organizationally if you're responsible for it? If you haven't, start today. Look at the array of competencies and skills that are necessary, some of which I've covered, and start to identify the sessions if you haven't already done that, or check the sessions you've identified and see if they're the ones that are going to line up to what you think your organization needs. Take advantage of other PMI resources that we have. We have communities of practice, we have chapters, local networking here at this event. More people tell me that they learn from networking as much as they do from the actual sessions. Listen in the sessions, go out of the sessions, and talk about it. That's where you'll learn. You'll build relationships and networks that will serve you for the rest of your career. We also have standard certification resources on PMI.org. You're all free to access those as well. And now back to the story. This sounds like a challenge to me. I talk to organizations all the time. I know it's not easy. So as I was thinking about my remarks to you, one of the things I was reminded of was a meeting I had with Tom Peters. If you know Tom Peters, the management guru, In Search of Excellence, Reimagine, many other things that he's written about. We had a chance to meet at in Denver at an executive breakfast. He was the primary speaker. I was an opening speaker. And we had a breakfast, and he said, it was really get to meet Tom was the purpose of the breakfast. And he said, ask me anything. There was about a dozen of us around the table. Now, I come from a large family. So when there's a moment of silence, we start talking. And so he said, ask me anything, and everybody else went silent and put their head down, and I said, okay, doors open. So I asked him, I said, Tom, why does it take organizations to get a book like Jim Collins' Built to Last, or Jensen's Simplicity, or whoever was writing books in that time frame, to remind us that people are important? You know, get the right people on the bus. Why does it take somebody like that to tell us what we've already known, and we always know, and probably will never change? And he said, thought for a moment, split second. He said, you know why, Mark? Because it's hard. And when it gets hard, organizations do something else. And when it gets hard for individuals, some of those do something else. So I don't think this is easy, but I think what we need to do together is when it gets hard, not do something else. I think what we need to do is to continue to focus on developing the right resources for you, and you need to help yourselves develop the right talent and skills for your organization, and the organization needs to help you do it as well. So it's going to be hard, but we know it's possible because leading organizations have already done it. So as I thought about it, sounds simple, good news, bad news, but it's really hard. And I don't want you to think it's not difficult. It's not an easy road, but it's one I think that we're starting today, and I'm glad that you're here with us for the Congress to start with me.